Friends, welcome to this YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss the part 3 of the forces of evolution. And in this part 3 we are going to discuss natural selection as one of the forces of evolution. You may be knowing that this video lesson is consisting of part 3, and today we are discussing the third part. 3 parts are there, and today we are discussing the third part. The contents of earlier lessons are mutations, gene flow, first part, and in the second part we discussed genetic drift with subheadings founder effect and bottleneck effect. Today we are going to discuss natural selection with the subheadings stabilizing selection, directional selection, and disruptive selection. Let us get started. Natural selection is the main theory of Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin explained his origin of species theory on the basis of a very important procedure called natural selection. According to Charles Darwin, natural selection is the main driving force of evolution. Nature will establish a struggle. Generally, any animal or any plant has to face the struggle. And in the struggle, whichever wins the struggle, that will be selected by nature according to Charles Darwin. So, nature always favors the winning individual. The winning individual or the individual which has won the struggle will get the chance of reproduction. And during the reproduction, the same winning traits will be carried to the next generation, and the next generation will be produced with the successive or successful traits. The organism which has lost the struggle will have no chance of reproduction. Hence, their characters, that individual character, will never be inherited to the next generation, and there will be no representative of a failure individual in the next generation according to Charles Darwin. By this way, gradually, generation after generation, only the individuals which are overcoming the struggle are establishing their progeny. So friends, you need to understand one thing, that Charles Darwin explained his natural selection, and this Darwinism is mainly based on inheritance of traits. This Darwinism is mainly based on the reproductive success. According to Darwin, all the individuals in a population have no similar rate of reproductive success because of their variations. As they are having some favorable variations, their reproductive success is more. And those which are having unfavorable variations or harmful variations, their chances of reproduction is very less. Hence, their traits are not preserved by nature in the next generation. So that's why the very important key point in natural selection is the reproductive success. Reproductive success. So whichever individual is reproducing, that means that the traits are passing to the next generation. Next generation is representing the genes of this individual. And whichever individual, even though it has got success in the struggle but not able to reproduce, won the struggle but unable to reproduce, you just imagine. So in spite of winning the struggle, the individual, if unable to reproduce, his traits will never be transmitted to the next generation. So what is the very important key point of natural selection is the reproductive success. So this reproductive success is the very important point to be understood for understanding natural selection. Many forces of evolution are there, as we discussed. Mutation, the method of formation of new variations, that is mutation. Gene flow. A gene flow occurs between the two populations by means of migrating individuals. If gene flow is prevented, then two populations emerge into different characters because they receive mutations in a different manner. Okay. And then the very important force is by chance that occurs, that is called genetic drift. Because of genetic drift, allelic frequencies will be disturbed by chance. As a result of that, populations differ from one another, so that they will become new species. But these are all the things. But the very, very, very important force of evolution, that is the driving force of evolution, is the natural selection. That's why Darwinism is still valid. It is important mechanism along with the mutation, gene flow, genetic drift. The grand idea of natural selection is very simple. It is very simple. Whichever organism is having useful variations, that will win the struggle, and that will undergo reproduction, and that will pass the traits or the genes to the next generation. The next generation is established with these successful characters only. It's a very simple idea, but it is misunderstood. As it is misunderstood because whichever individual has one, that is going to establish the next generation only if it is having reproductive potential. Sometimes simply winning the struggle does not be selected by the nature. So ultimate selection occurs only when there is reproductive success. Most of the times, superior individuals will win the struggle. An individual with a superior quality will win the struggle. But if it doesn't have the reproductive potential, so the winning will become in vain. So that is why natural selection, many critics criticize that it is a selfish theory. Only the fit individuals are selected. Why so many individuals are still surviving without fitness? Why so many individuals are still surviving without having the reproductive ability? You take, for example, honeybees. The worker bees don't have the reproductive capacity, but they are selected by nature. Okay, so in such a way, it is misunderstood. But later, neo-Darwinists explained the process of natural selection in a correct scientific procedures, scientific patterns. Okay, so in a population, let us take, for example, the very simple example of natural selection. In a population of beetles, some are green in color and the other are brown in color. Okay, actually, green color does not give any advantage to its metabolism or its physiology, or brown color does not give any advantage to its behavior or any other thing. But the very, very important thing here, the variation, this kind of green color and brown color variation is useful to fight or to come over the struggle called interspecific struggle. The interspecific struggle is the struggle between the two species. Here, between the beetle and the birds. Generally, the green color beetles are easily identifiable by the predator birds. So even though the green individual is having good qualities, but here having green color is a disadvantage. So with green color, it cannot overcome the interspecific struggle. So that's why the beetles with the green color are easily preyed by the birds. And those beetles which are having brown color, suppose brown color beetles are with some unfit characters, but here they are selected by nature because they are overcoming interspecific struggle. These brown beetles are not easily identifiable by the birds. They are escaping from the struggle and they are having the reproductive capacity. So as a result of that, the genes of brown beetles will go to the next generation, and in the next generation, brown genes will increase in the gene pool. As the brown genes are increasing in the gene pool frequencies gradually shift from green and brown with a common ratio to more brown genes. As this allelic frequency is changing over generation after generation, gradually a new population is formed, and such a new population may become a new species in the making. So this is a very simple idea. Natural selection is a very simple idea, but we need to understand it properly. Here, the fit value is the most important concept. Fit in the sense of intraspecific struggle, interspecific struggle, and fit in the sense of reproductive success. Reproductive success. This is very important. Okay. So, the interspecific struggle favors the brown beetles and the nature selects only the brown beetles. So, let us understand in how many different patterns the natural selection can occur. So, according to neo-Darwinists, natural selection occurs in 3 different patterns. Let us see. So, by the mechanism of natural selection, the population of beetles with a brown color gradually formed. Okay. Another very important idea of natural selection is that not all the members of population have the same chance of reproduction and same chance of surviving. So, reproductive success is the very important point for natural selection. By having small phenotypic variations, some may be advantageous because of their adaptations. By having a very small variation, this small variation can become an adaptation for its reproductive success. Say for example, having sexual dimorphic character, a small variation. Because of having a sexual dimorphic character, a male may be attracted by a female. Though it is unfit in other characters, it is now fit for reproduction. That's why it is selected. So, in such a way, we need to understand natural selection in the correct manner. So, wherever we use the word adaptation here refers to fitness. The more the adaptation means, the more the fitness will be. Fitness is the measure of ability of an individual to survive or to produce. It is the measure of ability of an individual for its survival and also for its reproduction. So, if it is having an adaptation for reproduction, definitely it will become a fit value for the selection. High fitness means in evolution, or according to Darwinism, according to natural selection, high fitness means more survival and more reproduction. As a result of more survival and more reproduction, there will be greater contribution of its gene in the next gene pool, the population of the next generation gene pool. So, those who are having high fitness here refers to survival and reproduction. These two are very important things for natural selection. Natural selection is having differential reproduction and survival. So, differential reproduction and differential survival rates of individuals are playing very important role for natural selection. Okay. As a result of that, over generation after generation, because of natural selection, only the favored alleles are moving. So, as a result of that, allelic frequencies in the next generation gradually changing. A change in the allelic frequencies according to Hardy-Weinberg principle is called an evolution. Okay. There are 3 patterns of natural selection. They are stabilizing selection, directional selection, and disruptive selection. Let us analyze these 3 separately. Stabilizing selection. Stabilizing selection is the most common mechanism of natural selection. Say a population is having many alleles, you take for example. So, a population is having many phenotypes. So, let us consider one phenotype with variations. Say, some are having extreme phenotypes of this side, some are having extreme phenotype of that side, and some are having average phenotype. When the environment is homogeneous, when the nature or the environment is not at all having any disturbances, during such conditions, when the environment is having no disturbances at all, stabilizing selection will operate. The stabilizing selection prefers what is that called average value, the mean value of population. Only the individuals with average value are selected more in number. The individuals with extreme values are not at all selected by this way. This is a pattern of natural selection which operates in an environment which is homogeneous, which does not change very rapidly. So in that, nobody will go for extreme quality, extreme varieties, because everything is normal. Generally, nature will prefer only the normal individual. Hence, it is called normalization. As a result of stabilizing selection, you see what is that called phenotypic stability occurs. There will be no drastic changes of phenotypes in the population. Gradually, phenotypic stability occurs. Let me tell you one example. In the case of human beings, we are all normal human beings, but sometimes a Klinefelter syndrome or a Turner's syndrome are also there. But nature does not select the Klinefelter syndrome and Turner syndrome because which are having extreme values. It will prefer only a normal value individual. Hence, this kind of selection is called stabilizing selection or normalizing selection. It is the most common mechanism where environment is homogeneous, environment is not bringing very drastic changes. Under such conditions, the mean value is selected. Most traits do not appear to change drastically over time in this way. Okay, mating is preferred with a related morph. Generally, what will be the behavior of the male and female? The female prefers the male which is having a related morphology, not with the extreme morphological individual. Okay, so you take for example average color, average height, like that. So whichever is having a related morphology, that will be preferred. Whichever individual is having extreme morphology, such extreme qualities are not at all selected because the environment is not requiring such extreme values now because it is not changing. Environment is homogeneous. Stabilizing selection, very interestingly, is actually a negative selection. Because here extreme value according to Darwin is the most fit value and which is winning the struggle actually. So here extreme values are not at all selected. So this selection operates negatively on extreme values. So extreme values are discarded. Hence, stabilizing selection is said to be the negative selection. Extreme values are not at all selected. They are removed from population gradually over generations. Only the mean value individuals are always favored. Okay, selection against extreme values occurs. It operates in a stable environment. That's very, very important thing. Stabilizing selection operates only in a stable environment, not the fluctuating environment. Extreme individuals from the two ends, this end and that end, low value individuals, low fit, and the highest value individuals are simply eliminated. Only the average individuals will be selected, and this a way in which average phenotype value are selected. Stabilizing selection does not promote evolutionary change because no change happens. So phenotypes are maintained in a stable condition. Changes will not occur. So it does not favor evolution. It does not promote evolutionary change, and speciation does not occur at all. But it tends to maintain the homozygosity, or what is that called, stability of phenotype, not homozygosity, stability of phenotype within the population over generations. So we need to understand stabilizing selection is actually a negative selection against individuals having extreme values. And stabilizing selection does not promote evolution, but it maintains the stability of the species. That is the very, very important thing. Okay, so let us see other characters. So this is a population, let's see, and these are having extreme values this side, and these are having, this is the area where extreme individuals are living, these are having some average individuals. From this, let us see, nature will select what kind of organisms. Come to this side. Okay, in a population where selection is not there, so let us see what. So nature is favoring only this area. This area is having mean value. It is having not extreme value this side and that side. So extreme ends are cut here by the stabilizing selection. So all people which are selected, all individuals which are selected are having almost all mean value. Extreme value individuals are discarded. So let us have an example here. So in England, a survey was made to identify that which is the proper weight of infants having more what is that called successful living. Let's see, the infants who are having the birth weight in between 6 and 8, especially 7.5 pounds of birth weight is there for those infants. Those infants are selected by the nature. So nature is allowing those individuals to live, and those infants which are having less than 6 or more than 8 are not allowed, are not favored. What are only favored? Favored ones are having around 7 to 7.5 pounds of birth weight. Let us analyze why this is happening. Okay, why this is happening, let us analyze. The birth weight, the babies of low weight, when a baby is born with very low weight means having low mass. Low mass means having less number of cells. Less number of cells means less metabolism. And you see the environment, which is very, very cold there in England, needs some generation of heat by the body of infant. For the generation of more heat, more metabolism. More metabolism means more cells. More cells means must have more weight. But if the infant is having less than the required weight is 7.5 pounds, if it is having less than that weight, it may not be able to generate heat. That is why the survival chances are very, very less for those infants, because they are unable to generate heat for survival. So that's very important. And you see, when a baby developed inside the womb of the mother with a large body and more weight, it is really a problem during the delivery that the baby cannot come out of the pelvis, can come out of pelvis of mother. So more mortality rate is there within the body of mother. So what infants are surviving? Actually, those infants which are having average value. Average value here is 7.5 pounds of weight. Okay, an intermediate weight, actually 7.5 is an intermediate between very low and very high. So intermediate weight individuals are selected. So this is a kind of selection that occurs scientifically. Okay, so generally what we think, if an infant is having more weight, he will become fit. Generally we think in such a way. That is why in the beginning sentence we discussed that Darwinism is misunderstood. Natural selection is misunderstood. So what is the fit value? Fit value is that value which is required for that particular context. Okay, so 7.5 birth weight individuals are fit individuals. Having more weight than 7.5 is a kind of disadvantage, so that the baby cannot come outside naturally. or normal during normal delivery. So this is called stabilizing selection. So where the intermediate value is selected, because those individuals who are having intermediate weight are having more survival chances. Survival chance, that's a very, very important thing here. So fit value is deciding survival chance. Next, let us go on to the next selection, that is called directional selection. The meaning itself, the word itself means direction. Something is directing the selection. So this directional selection is a kind of natural selection in which the extreme phenotype is selected. Extreme phenotype. Okay. So the earlier selection and the present selection are not same. In the case of stabilizing selection, only the average and average value individuals are selected. But here, once nature selects one extreme value, individual with one extreme value, and later if environment changes, nature will also change its selection value. It will shift the average value from one end to another end. You take, for example, let me give you one example. If you want to buy clothes, and in the winter season we prefer woolen clothes, and in the summer season we prefer cotton clothes. Our selection value shifted from one end to another end depending upon the changing environment. When there is a drastic change in the environment, the selection value will also be shifted from one end to the other end. This is another kind of selection. It's quite different to the earlier selection called stabilizing selection. This is a very, very different one. The selection causes a shift of allelic frequency from one end to the other end. The advantageous allele, whether it is there in this extreme side or that extreme side, only the advantageous allele will increase, okay, in its frequency as a consequence of differential survival and reproductive success. So under changing environment, which organism is having more success, reproductive success, that will be selected. Generally, under changing environment, only if an individual is having extreme value, that will be selected in the changing environment. So extreme value is selected, and that extreme value is shifting from one end to another end. Over the time, the favored extreme will become more common, and the other extreme, what was already selected earlier, will become less common, or the earlier selected extreme value will become extinct. What I mean is, nature will also change its selection pattern with reference to changes in the environment according to the need. The fit value here, the most important term here is fit value. The fit value in one particular environment is an advantage, but the same fit value may become disadvantage in the other environment when environment changed. So as the fit value changes from one end to the other end, selection pattern will also change from one end to another end. The average value of selection is changing from one end to the other end. The classical example of directional selection is the evolution of peppered moth Biston bechellaria, peppered moths in the 18th and 19th century in England. It is experimentally verified by Bernard Kettlewell as industrial melanism. Okay, so in the 18th century, at the end of the 18th century, at the end of the 19th century actually, so between 18th and 19th century, this is the period of industrial revolution actually. Prior to industrial revolution in England, the light colored peppered moths are representing more in a population. The allelic frequencies of light color are more than those of dark color prior to industrial revolution, because the light gray colored wings of peppered moths, when they are resting on barks or when they are resting on lichens or rocks, okay, they are simply cryptic with their color. the color of the wings of peppered moths are matching with the color of the barks. Before Industrial Revolution, trees are naturally grey in color, wings are also grey in color. When a grey peppered moth rests on grey colored bark, it is not easily identifiable by its predator bird. So it is an advantageous character, escaped from interspecific struggle and got more chances for reproduction. As a result of that, the alleles, grey color alleles are more favored. This is the case prior to the Industrial Revolution. But once Industrial Revolution occurred, all the industries, factories, they produced black soot. Okay, the black soot spewed on the entire surfaces like tree barks and rocks, buildings. So that all became black. The background color shifted from light to black. As the background color shifted, then what happens? When the grey colored pepper moth is resting on black colored background, now it is easily identifiable by its bird, so that in the interspecific struggle these are defeated. And those individuals which are black in color with wings, black colored wings, once defeated in the prior to the Industrial Revolution are now favored, because the black winged peppered moths are not identifiable by their predators, as the background is also black. You see what has happened to nature. Earlier nature preferred one kind of value, that means one kind of fit value. Now the fit value shifted from one end to the other end. Once what value is discarded is now selected. Once what is selected is now discarded because of the direction of the environment. So this is known as directional selection. Okay. So Bernard Kettlewell, a scientist, neo-Darwinist, made an experiment with these peppered moths, Biston betularia, took some members of Biston betularia with the two varieties, black color and grey color, introduced equal number in Birmingham, the polluted area, and in the Dorset, the countryside unpolluted area. After some time, when they recorded the numbers of these two individuals, in Birmingham, more black-winged peppered moths are recorded, whereas in Dorset, more grey-winged peppered moths are recorded. So you see a shifting of fit value in the two places occurred. So this is called directional selection. In such a way, we need to understand natural selection. You see, earlier grey peppered moths were preferred. Blacks are not at all preferred. But when environment got changed, then the selection, natural selection also changed. Okay, original population with more grey moths, but population after natural selection, after industrial, industrial revolution, what has happened? More black moths are selected. Grey moths are very, very less in number. So natural selection is shifting the value from one end to another end. This is called directional selection. And the last pattern of natural selection is disruptive selection. Disruptive selection is a kind of selection in which mean value is not at all preferred. Average value is not at all preferred. Only the extreme values got selected. In stabilizing selection, only average value is selected. In directional selection, average value is shifting from end to end. In disruptive selection, average value is not at all selected, only the extreme values are selected. Let us see, this is also a pattern of selection. Natural selection does not occur all the time in only one way. It occurs depending upon the environment. It occurs in three different patterns. Disruptive selection is one of the parts or one of the types of patterns of natural selection. The average value or mean value is not at all given preference in disruptive selection. Over the time, two extreme phenotypes become more common, and the average phenotypes are eliminated. As a result of selection, two different populations will be selected. As the two different populations Gradually, what is that? Preserving their alleles separately, they may become new species in the course of next generations, the making. Let us see the examples. We have two examples here to explain disruptive selection. The oysters, shells, you see oysters. There are three varieties of oysters: light color oysters, dark oysters, intermediate color oysters. Let us see the case. Okay, the light color oyster, when they are resting on rock, which is also light color, is cryptic, as the color of oyster will match with the rock color. As a result of that, they are not identifiable by their predators. They are less preyed. Okay, so they are preferring living by attaching to the rocks, because rock color and oyster color both are light. That's why it's a favorable color. Okay, it is one extreme end. And the dark oysters, dark colored oysters, are preferring living in the shadows of rocks. You know, the shadow is dark. In the darkness of shadow, they are hiding. They are cryptic. Okay, in that way they are also escaped. But those oysters which are having intermediate color, they are easily identifiable when they are resting on rocks, or they are also easily identifiable when they are in the shadow. So those were picked up by their predator like crabs. Their number got reduced. As their number got reduced, their reproductive ability reduced. When their reproductive ability got reduced, their allelic representation in the next generation will get reduced, and gradually the extreme values of population are selected by this disruptive selection. Okay, let's see the other example also. The other example is African swallowtail butterfly, Papelia dardanus. Here, this Papelia dardanus is having three varieties: bright color with one particular color, bright color of another particular bright color, two bright colors of different varieties, and an intermediate color. Okay, here the situation is the bright colored butterflies are resembling those butterflies, those bright colored butterflies which are distasteful. It's a kind of mimicry. Okay, the predator birds were not preferring the bright colored butterflies because some other species bright colored butterflies were distasteful. That's why, so these are also protected. It's a kind of mimicry. Okay, so those butterflies which are having an intermediate color, having a dull color or intermediate color, dull color let us say, are preferred by the predators, hence their number got decreased. So average value here is not preferred, extreme values are preferred. So friends, so you see here the graph here. So this is average individual once they are very large, but because of natural selection, only the bright ones are preferred, bright color ones are preferred, because the bright colors individuals are mimicking the other bright colored butterfly which is distasteful. Actually these are very, very tasty, but as they are resembling the bright color of other butterfly, they are favored. Bright color here is favored. Okay, so the dull color one is not at all favored. So extreme values are selected, average value is discarded, not selected. Likewise oysters, light oyster settled on rock, escaped. Dark oyster settled on shadow, escaped. But the intermediate colored oyster is easily identifiable by the predator and their number got reduced. So whenever their number got reduced, they have low reproductive chances. Low reproductive chances means low allelic transfer. Okay, that is why allelic representation in the next generation of this particular variety will become low. So as a result of that, it is eliminated and the two extreme values got selected. Let's see the summary. Natural selection is a very, very important driving force as explained by Charles Darwin. And the way in which natural selection can occur is explained in three different patterns. They are stabilizing selection, directional selection, and disruptive selection. Friends, stabilizing selection occurs when there is homogeneous environment and average value is preferred. Evolution does not occur, but phenotypic value is preferred here. Directional selection occurs when there occurs a drastic change in the environment. Average value is shifting from one end to another end. And disruptive selection occurs in a heterogeneous environment. Average value is not at all preferred. First one, average value preferred. Second, average value is shifted. Third, average value is not at all preferred. Okay, so this is the natural selection, a very useful or very good and very grand idea of Charles Darwin. And neo-Darwinism is also favoring this natural selection, and along with the natural selection, reproductive isolation, because Charles Darwinism is purely based on reproductive success and survival rates. So as reproductive isolation, all these are causing speciation, and different patterns of speciation are also there. Let's see the speciation and isolation in the next coming lessons. Thank you, friend. Thank you for watching this video.